Okay, well, right here with the pickup truck again. I'm getting ready to install the LC Engineering crank scraper. I've got my oil pan over here, and I've been working on it a little bit. This is actually a four-wheel drive oil pan that was on my truck. You can see, in order to get it to work with the two-wheel drive, I had to notch it and weld a little piece in right there. Also cut off that scraper plate, and then you can kind of see you got to kind of hammer a relief for the sway bar. The other thing that helps a lot is, I'll just mention it here, these little corners that normally poke out, bend those down, and that will help you get the pan on and off with the sump part, and that makes life a lot more easy. So just in case, you know, anyone's ever trying to put a four-wheel drive pan on their two-wheel drive truck, maybe that'll help somebody. As far as actually getting the pan off, it's not too hard. You have to remove this cross member thing on the subframe, and then let me get the crank scraper. And the crank scraper, I'm putting it in primarily to see if it might help control oil consumption. It's not really a performance sort of thing, although they do say it increases horsepower. From the dyno stuff I've seen on like V8s and what have you, you know, you're lucky if you get maybe a 1 or 1.5% horsepower increase. So then my truck puts out about 135 horsepower, so you know, maybe 1 or 1.5 horsepower increase on a good day there. But the reason I'm putting it in is primarily to attempt to kind of control oil and reduce oil consumption on the motor. I have a suspicion that some of the oil is getting up on the cylinder walls. So you can see under here, I've got the pan off. I sprayed some carb cleaner up into the piston skirts on the bottom to try to, you know, encourage the rings to break free, and on the cylinder walls, and then I turned the motor over by hand. But I'll get this on. There won't be too much more to show. It's pretty straightforward. You put it on, then put the pan on. With the rear sump, you know, there's some clearance issues back there with the sway bar. I had it rubbing before I hammered that little spot in on the back of the oil pan that I showed. It was rubbing up against the sway bar. You can kind of see. And like I say, to get the pan on and off, you have to drop this linkage here, the steering linkage. Easiest thing to do is just unbolt the idler arm from the frame, which is not too difficult, and then you can kind of just articulate this around and get it past the tension compression control rod there that goes up to the front of the frame. And then once you drop that down and get that cross member that bolts the cross out of the way, it's usually pretty straightforward as far as kind of working the pan out. So anyways, I'll be putting the LC Engineering crank scraper on. Like I say, not for horsepower or anything like that, primarily just to see if it maybe might keep some of the oil off the cylinder walls, and that if that's the case, then perhaps it will help reduce the oil consumption. I've got a 1,100 mile trip planned for the truck here pretty soon, so over the coming months I should be able to start to get a fairly decent read on what the actual oil consumption is now that I have the catch can on there, and the PCV system seems to be functioning real nice. So I know a lot of people have been waiting to hear about the oil consumption. I don't have a real good read on it right now because of a lot of the testing and issues I had with the catch can. I do have the catch can thing sorted out. Last time I checked, I think it was 15 milliliters of oil over something like around 400 miles. So as far as oil showing up in the catch can, that's at a manageable level. So I think it's currently about 6 or 7 ounces every 3,000 miles is the rate that it's using. So that's kind of within tolerable limits for the catch can. Okay, so that's about it. Hope you've enjoyed the video there, and If you have any questions or comments or anything, feel free to use the section below. And in the description, I will follow up and make some reference as to if I noticed anything different with the installation of the crank scraper, or if I noticed any kind of decrease in oil consumption or increase in gas mileage, which the gas mileage is something I track very, very closely on the truck, so that might be an area where it could show up. So, okay, thanks a lot for watching.